Yo, what's poppin' everybody? This is Jabari98 here. Today, I actually want to do a different type of video. Due to recent events in my life, which I'll go into more detail about later, I spent a ton of time away from my computer, which means I couldn't play the PC versions of Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail, meaning that in order to, get my events done, get my dailies, pull Acheron, and get my polls ready for adventuring and stuff, I had to spend a lot of time playing the mobile versions of the games. And it was quite an interesting experience, and I just wanted to make this video talking about my personal thoughts about each game's mobile version, and then compare the two, and then talk about which of the two games I actually prefer. Hopefully this starts a conversation in the comment section, because this was a really interesting experience to go through, for better or worse. Let's get into it. Actually, before I get into things, I'm just not gonna sit around and pretend that there isn't a massive elephant in the room. Yeah, so I've been on a long hiatus, right? I think the last video I uploaded was over 2 months ago. It has been an incredibly long hiatus, and I really apologize for that, my guys. As you guys probably heard from my posts on the community section on the channel, if you didn't, it's okay. My PC broke. It was something like the power strip had malfunctioned, or had gotten overheated, so it literally melted. So I had to repair it twice. First repair didn't actually fix the problem. Second repair did. And there was also a lot, and I mean a lot of outside personal events and issues that just left me in a huge funk, really honestly depressed. So it took a lot longer for me to get my PC fixed than it honestly should have, but it was just, your boy wasn't really doing good, to be honest. It has, trust me, I know I was on a hiatus, but trust me, these last few months have not been easy for your boy. Also, this might be a bit too much personal info here, I guess, but one last thing before I get into the video proper is I just want to say to all my viewers who may have elderly family members that are still alive, like their grandma or grandpa or stuff like that, make sure you visit them, take time to be with them and tell them that you love them, because they won't be around forever. So please value the time that you have with them while you can. I truly, because once they're gone, they're gone, man. So just do that. Call them if you can. I'm not going to make a false promise and say something along the lines of hopefully this hiatus this long never happens again, because as these last 2 months have shown me, life is unpredictable. You never know what's going to happen. What I can do is I promise to deliver you guys awesome content regardless of whatever comes my way, or at least I'll try to, because I really missed you guys. Alright, so let's go over the criteria that I'm going to use as the baseline for reviewing both of the mobile games, starting with the device that I use to play both of these games on, which is my personal Samsung Galaxy A53 Android device, mobile phone. It has a 5000 mAh battery, a 5nm octa-core processor, 6 GB of virtual RAM, a 120Hz 6.5-inch Infinity O display, and most importantly, a 128 GB storage available right out the gate. Although this experience has me heavily considering upgrading to a 1 TB storage for my phone, because holy crap, Genshin Impact Mobile and Honkai Star Rail Mobile took up a whopping 1/4 of my phone's storage while they were both on my phone. That was insane, dude. Honestly, I couldn't wait to get this video done, bro, because my phone was literally screaming in pain. It was like it was being stuffed full of food while both of those games were on my phone. Dear God. The second criteria is the control style that I'm going to use as a baseline for both games: touch screen controls. I know that there's official controller support for iPhone users. However, my device is an Android. And while I do personally believe that Android is better than iPhone, in my personal opinion, one thing the iPhone does have over Android at this moment in time is official controller support, meaning I can't use my Xbox or PlayStation controllers on my phone and then use that to play Genshin or Honkai Star Rail. Now, I know that it's possible for Android users to play Genshin Impact with a controller on Android devices with a Razer Kishi V2, which goes about for $75 to $138 between like on Amazon and Best Buy. And that smartphone controller has a feature known as virtual controller mode. So you can bind physical controller buttons to on-screen buttons. I know that that's an option for Android players, Android users. However, for the sake of keeping things consistent between the two games, I'm going to stick to the most common control type for both versions and rating how well both games function with it. So that is the reason why I'm going to be using touchscreen controls and basing how well each game functions with touchscreen controls. And last but not least, I also just want to say right off the bat that this is not a general Genshin Impact versus Honkai Star Rail video. This is just their mobile versions from my personal experience over the past couple months. So think of this as less which game's battle pass is better and more of a which game performs better under high stress on a mobile device type of thing. So that's the baseline. And with that out of the way, let's get into it. Right off the bat, a compliment that I can give that both games share is that they look and sound fantastic. As far as sound goes, I highly recommend you wear some Bluetooth headphones or something like that while you're playing both games to get the best audio. But yeah, not a lot of audio quality loss from the PC version to the mobile version. The music still sounds great, attacks sound great, character voice lines still sound great. It's the sound is still top notch on the mobile version. Very happy about that because Genshin and Honkai Star Rail has some fantastic music. I'm really happy about that. As far as the graphics go, both games look good enough at high and lower graphical settings. I was expecting a much lower overall graphical finesse compared to the PC version, but I was honestly shocked at how good both games look on the surface at higher graphical settings. However, as you can see in the footage that I'm uploading on this video, I left both games at the lowest graphical settings that I could set them at due to a wide variety of issues that they also shared between one another. One of those issues that I have to bring up right off the bat, both games make your mobile device's battery incredibly hot. Like almost hot to the touch. Like it almost gets hot enough that using the touch controls becomes almost like painful. There was also some frame drops that would happen at higher graphical, that happened at both lower and higher graphical settings, but it happened the most at higher graphical settings, which is why I left the graphical settings for both games as low as possible. I believe I left Genshin Impact at 24 to 30 frames per 30 FPS, while I left Honkai Star Rail at 30 FPS because I believe the lowest FPS you could set Genshin is 24, but the lowest you could set Honkai Star Rail is 30, at least for me. So that's cool. Also, another shared issue that both games have, cutscenes. I don't know if it's because the processor on my phone isn't strong enough, or maybe it's because of my phone's storage being absolutely maxed out while these games are active, or my phone's RAM being maxed out while this game's active, while both of these games are active. I don't know, but whenever a cutscene had to play for both games, it was so unbelievably choppy. Like it legitimately ruined like some like important like cutscenes that I would have experienced for both games had I played them on the PC version. So that's a big bummer. These issues typically got worse the longer the play session, so I kept playtime to around 45 minutes at one time, at least for Honkai Star Rail. And as for Genshin, more on that later. Alright then, so what's the key difference between Genshin Mobile and Honkai Star Rail Mobile that would make me prefer one over the other? One thing, one major thing: the control. And it all comes down to the type of genre of RPG that both games are, and how that genre fits into the touchscreen controls that both games utilize. That honestly makes me prefer Honkai Star Rail's mobile version over the Genshin Impact mobile version. Honkai Star Rail is a traditional turn-based RPG with very few buttons on the screen for you to press at any given time to interact throughout the entire game. There's usually only 2 buttons to press while in combat, about 3 or 4 buttons for you to press while in the overworld, and that's honestly it. And you can clear like the vast majority of the game's content without your controls being too much of a hassle. There are issues with the camera. Like I'm not a huge fan of controlling the camera with touchscreen controls. Like when I put my finger in the middle of the screen, I sometimes get confused with whether or not I have no idea whether or not my camera is going to rotate or if it's just going to zoom in on my character or the environment, which is usually what I don't want it to do, at least in the overworld. But in combat, it's even less the touchscreens are even less of an issue due to the genre of game that Honkai Star Rail is, and for better or worse, how simplistic its control scheme is. Genshin Impact, on the other hand, is an action-based RPG. My favorite kind of RPG, actually. That means there are a lot of mechanics that require precise timing, and such as movement and knowing what directions the attacks are coming from so that you can dodge it appropriately, switching between characters on the fly so that you can use their abilities on the fly and combo them together to get the best results possible. It's all in real time and not just being able to go at your own pace like in Honkai Star Rail, which is honestly my favorite part of Genshin Impact's combat in general on the PC version. But on the mobile version, this is when things get dicey. In my honest opinion, Star Rail's simpler gameplay loop and functionality works in its favor on mobile devices. It's simpler controls overall, so it's easier gameplay to manage with the touchscreen controls. The game's simpler hub world makes getting around with touch controls less of an issue. Like, I did get blindsided by an enemy while exploring sometimes due to not rotating the camera screen fast enough, because again, I have issues with rotating the screen, like I mentioned earlier. But usually that just leads to the enemy going first and stuff like that. It didn't happen often enough to where it just absolutely ruined my gameplay experience in Honkai Star Rail. And if all else fails, like for example, if my mobile device got way too hot from a long playthrough for whatever reason, it felt like touching my phone was the equivalent of dipping my hands into a volcano for some reason, and I just didn't want to use the touchscreen controls. If all else fails, you can just autoplay. So honestly, Honkai Star Rail was just very comfortable to play with its touchscreen controls. I believe it benefits from touchscreen controls far more than Genshin Impact Mobile does. Now, Genshin Impact's mobile version, where do I even start? So again, because of how much more action-based Genshin Impact is as a game, it makes mistakes due to certain issues like frame drops or fat fingering a button you didn't mean to press due to touch controls or something like that, or not being able to turn your camera at the right moment to see an attack coming before it was too late. Incredibly frustrating. I have several pet peeves with Genshin Impact as far as how it's implemented into the touchscreen controls. The biggest one is that you can't move any of the touchscreen inputs around in order to make pressing the buttons more comfortable. And yes, I know that Honkai Star Rail doesn't allow you to do this either, but in Genshin Impact's case, it's far bigger of an issue because I lost count of how many times I fat fingered a button that I didn't mean to press. Like for example, in the top right of the screen is where all of your characters are positioned and that are off field, and you have to press that character's icon in order to switch to them in combat. I can't tell you how many times I accidentally switched in one character when I meant to switch into another one, and had to wait out that cooltime before I could switch to that character again. And it could just throw off the rhythm of your combat so much. The character switch icons are so close to each other that it's inevitable that you're going to switch to the wrong character at some point eventually, and that just wastes time, man. Both Honkai Star Rail and Genshin Impact shared the issue of frame drops happening when things get a bit too hectic on their mobile versions that can make the visual quality of things a bit less discerning. But for Honkai Star Rail, the frame drops are again less of an issue because it's a very simplistic, traditional turn-based RPG. But for an action-based RPG like Genshin Impact, frame drops that can eat your inputs can be the difference between life and death, especially if it's a dash input to avoid an attack. Like for example, like a boss's big AoE attack. If you're not able to dash in time to get out of it because one of your dash inputs got eaten up by a frame drop or two. That was so annoying. Turning the camera while also a pain on Honkai Star Rail is even worse in Genshin due to the live action gameplay of it, because there were plenty of times I got blindsided by an attack in Genshin Impact that I just didn't know was coming until it was too late, because there wasn't like an indicator of like an attack being like behind you or something like that. So you just had to know like there was an enemy there that was winding up an attack. Then you had to rotate the camera with your finger in order to see the attack coming, and then dash in order to dodge it, assuming that you didn't accidentally zoom in the camera, because now you just can't see nothing at all, so you're definitely not about to dodge whatever's coming. So yeah, that experience was awful. It's because of all of that and more that I feel like I personally prefer the mobile version of Honkai Star Rail over the mobile version of Genshin Impact. And going by the results of the community survey that I posted about a month or two ago, it seems like most of you guys watching this video might agree as well. I was expecting one game to be favored in that poll, but not for it to be so decisive. Outside of recording the footage for this video, I played Honkai Star Rail mobile far more in my spare time, while there were several weeks where I didn't even touch Genshin Impact mobile due to how uncomfortable it was to play at times. But regardless, I will never, ever take my PC for granted. These last 2 months were straight up trash for reasons I'll probably go into more detail about in a live stream or something. If you all enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like, comment your thoughts about which game you prefer to play on mobile, and subscribe if you would like to see more content from yours truly. All 3 of these would help me out a ton, because hot damn, I have a lot of catching up to do. You guys take care. Peace.